I've covered a lot of general info about Fire Emblem Engage since its launch, but there are some ideas, mechanics, and strats I've discussed that deserve a much closer look. One of those is backup units and the chain attack mechanic, a low-key MVP of Engage's combat system. Let's talk about it. Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. Normally here, I'd talk about my sub-goals for the year and all that good stuff, but I'm starting this script on February 1st, the day after my birthday. As such, I just wanted to take a second to thank everyone who wished me well and came by my stream to celebrate the big 3-1 with me. It was really nice and helped make the day special for me. Of course, if you haven't subbed and you'd be willing to, it would mean the world, but I just want y'all to know how much I appreciate you guys. The past few months on the channel have been a gift. Seriously. Thank you. This is the backup breakdown. Strap in, get your popcorn. This is a long one. First, what is backup? Backup is a subclass attached to certain infantry classes in Engage, such as the various fighter classes, lance, axe, and sword, and their promotions. Some other classes, such as Diamant's Lord class and promotion, also have backup as a subclass. Backup allows the unit to make a follow-up attack or chain attack when a unit that is within their attack range is attacked by another ally. Doesn't matter what positioning is at play here. If your hand axe wielding axe fighter, for example, is within attack range from where they're currently standing, they'll join in the attack. There are a few important notes to make about these chain attacks. First off, the backup unit involved does not get XP for their attack, so don't get any funny ideas about exploiting that. Next, the backup unit always attacks before the quote-unquote main unit in the combat, but even if they get the kill, the main unit gets any post-battle rewards and XP. Backup attacks always, as far as I've seen, have an 80% chance to hit, and they deal 10% of the target's max health as damage. This applies even if the backup unit would normally deal 0 damage with the exact same weapon during their own attack. Obviously, this is quite good for tough opponents as a result. Finally, there's no limit to the number of times a backup unit can engage in a chain attack. It's notable that chain attack is such a big mechanic that there are multiple skills and abilities that involve it. Moved to tiers, Brave Assist, Dual Strike, and Dual Assist all benefit from or improve these attacks, so plan to incorporate them if you want to build around this. Next up, let's quickly run through all of the classes with backup and characters who start in these classes. After that, we'll discuss the best options from those lists to maximize your backup effectiveness. The full list of classes with backup as a subclass is as follows: Diamant's Lord/Successor line, Tamara's Sentinel/Picket line, the Axe, Sword, and Lance Fighters, as I previously mentioned, Hero, Swordmaster, Halberdier, Berserker, and Warrior. As far as characters go who start in these classes, you're looking at the following in no particular order. We've got Boucheron, Diamant, Lapis, Saphir, Tamara, Panette, Kagetsu, Goldmary, Anna, and then technically speaking, Lucina, kinda, but that's a special case we'll get into later. Obviously, emblems aren't actually units, but still. Of course, you can class change anyone to a class with backup if you so choose, but for a quick start, these are your candidates. It's important to note that there are differences between Diamant and Tamara's unique classes compared to their generic counterparts. Diamant's Successor gets Soul for self-healing instead of Hero's Brave Assist, and is locked to swords and axes, as opposed to Hero's potentially wielding swords and lances. Tamara's Picket gets Sandstorm to increase damage output, compared to Halberdier's Pincer Attack. While these special classes are good, they're not necessarily the best for our purposes. They're better all-around units and, can hold their own maybe a little bit better than the generic classes, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for chain attacking. Speaking of not all classes really being created equal, sword-locked units like Swordmasters in particular struggle, as they're forced to use the Levin Sword if they want a ranged option, which is very important for chain attacking. Like anything else, this does work for the sake of chain attacking due to its set damage, but you may not necessarily want to be stuck with it otherwise. So let's talk about some more versatile options, shall we? If you're focusing on building an awesome chain attack team, you of course need to know what the best options are. Allow me to suggest two mainstays of Fire Emblem history: Hero and Warrior. These hardy fighters have always been some of my favorite classes in the series, and now they're even better. We'll start with Hero. Heroes start as sword fighters and require proficiency in either lances or axes to promote. On promotion, you will have access to swords and whatever the second proficiency you chose is. For our purposes, there's little difference between lances and axes, as they both have good ranged options, so choose whichever suits your needs. Of course, this is not to say there's no tactical differences between these weapon classes, mind, just that they both work for chain attacking. Heroes are strong combat units in their own right, but the notable thing is that they get the Brave Assist skill at level 5. Brave Assist allows the equipped unit to attack twice in one chain attack, so long as they're at full health. It shouldn't really take me telling you this to know that it's good, but just in case, doubling your damage is kinda really good. While yes, it's slightly annoying that Brave Assist won't proc if you aren't at full health, the ability to turn 4, 5, or 6 damage into 8, 10, or 12 is so nice. Do note, though, that each attack does have its own chance to hit, so you could wind up missing one of the two attacks every once in a while, or both if you're particularly unlucky. Regardless, keep a javelin or hand axe on your hero, and they will rack up the damage over the course of a battle. Look to Goldberry as a prime example of how a strong hero should play, and I would consider Kagetsu and Panette as potential reclasses for hero as well. Our second pick for the top of the backup pack-up is Warrior. These axe-wielding champions start off, unsurprisingly, as axe fighters, and require bow proficiency to promote to Warrior. These bows are the reason that we're here, as Warrior has the weapon rank to use the mighty longbow. While the raw physical damage of the Warrior is nice, and they can just use a hand axe for chain attacking, the longbow grants them some unique range from which to do so. Ensuring that you can chain attack from 3 range is very strong, and makes positioning much easier. After all, if you're using as many backup units as you can, you may find it hard to arrange them all around your target, but with the longbow, you can create extra space by keeping your Warrior at 3 range, allowing you to jam even more units into the pile. This will also allow your Warrior to just randomly join in more attacks, which, again, is nice. Saphir is your archetypical Warrior, and characters like Boucheron and Anna make solid Warriors as well when promoted. Of course, there are only so many slots on a team in any given battle, and you'll need some other units as well. You also want your units to actually be able to, look out for themselves in a fight, so who should you bring on this team for this strat? Allow me to make some suggestions. First off, Boucheron. Boucheron comes packing the moved to tears, quote-unquote, personal skill that grants him an extra 2 damage when an ally joins him with a chain attack. While this may not seem like a lot, remember, we're doing Death of 1,000 cuts here. Slap a Brave Axe on this lad, and with his good speed, you'll be regularly getting 8+ damage per round, on top of the chain attack, on top of his own solid damage. Speaking of, Boucheron actually has quite serviceable growth rates all around, and will likely turn out as one of the most well-balanced Firenese characters. While his strength can, kind of ironically, be a little low, this will be offset by the power of axes and the growths of Warrior, so don't sleep on this wholesome lad. He's actually pretty decent, as I've been learning. Next up, we have Diamant. While Diamant doesn't have personal skill that complements chain attacks the way that Boucheron does, what he does have is a well-balanced array of stats that will make a steadfast ally on the battlefield. With good HP, strength, speed, and defenses, as well as high build and the soul skill in his successor class, Diamant will be tough to take down. This will make him easier to position for future chain attacks, and his access to axes in Successor will make for some nice ranged options. He doesn't have the benefit of Brave Assist in Successor, of course, but, sometimes you just need survivability. For a change of pace, let's talk about Amber. While Amber starts as a Cavalier and as such cannot join in chain attacks, I wasn't very impressed with him in that class, so I instead made the change to Lance Fighter into Halberdier, and I've been quite impressed with those results. Similarly to his buddy Diamant, Amber is a tough unit to bring down. He's a tad slow, but again, has good HP, damage, and defenses, and has access to lances, which of course means javelins and spears for chain attacks. Stick Amber and Diamant in the front line together, and they should be able to hold quite well, so you can launch some powerful chain attacks on the following turn. Next up is Kagetsu, and this one is purely theoretical, as I've not actually had the chance to use Kagetsu myself, but I would, from a just pure stat standpoint, consider Kagetsu for a slot in any dedicated backup team. This Hoshido escapee is far and away the strongest sword wielder in the game, in my opinion, with excellent bases and superior growth rates. As a swordmaster, Kagetsu will outspeed and damage most units in the game. You can give him the Levin sword and not really worry about his combat abilities, or you could always change him to something like Hero and make him even more nasty with Brave Assist. With relatively early viability and availability, Kagetsu will be a steadfast cog in the backup machine and a terror on the battlefield in general. Speaking of heroes, I would be remiss to ignore Miss Perfection herself, Goldmary. While a later game recruit, Goldmary quickly established herself as a staple of my team. With her good weapon type coverage in swords and lances, good HP, strength, and a pretty solid 55 base defense growth, she will also be quite tough to bring down. Of course, she also has Brave Assist as a hero, and while her speed will likely be a tad low, Goldmary will be able to weather all but the most vicious of assaults and be doubling in chain attacks for some nice chunky damage. Finally, I want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you. If you're a longtime Fire Emblem fan, you may be inclined to dismiss very late game recruit Saphir as a matter of habit. As a late game Axe recruit, that typically would mean bad stats, and older characters in Fire Emblem, not that 35 is even old, but still, also in the past didn't really have the best growths, so people may wind up considering Saphir a filler unit or a pre-promote who's not worth using. But do not listen to these thoughts. There leads to the road to darkness. Saphir has been one of my most consistently badass units since I recruited her. She's got really nice base stats, growth's on par with the majority of the cast, she joins with a Brave Axe, has bow access right off the bat, excellent stuff, and one of the best personal skills in the game, in my opinion, in Will to Win. This makes it so, once Saphir is below 50% HP, she gets a flat plus 20% boost to her hit and avoid. This is a big bonus and very good for an Axe user in particular, who typically not the most accurate or dodgy classes, and of course it stacks with any other bonuses like terrain and weapon engravings as well. Throw backup on top of that, and you have a serious contender. The only shame is that you can't reclass Saphir to Hero for Brave Assist, as she won't be able to use her Brave Axe, but if that doesn't bother you, I mean, hell, go nuts. It will be really good, I promise. Of course, it's not just the backup attacker who allows you to start a chain attack. Any unit can start a chain so long as there are backup units in range. To make the most of this, again, we're turning to range 3 weapons like the longbow, as previously mentioned, and the Thunder family of spells. Snipers, bow knights, sages, mage knights, etc. will all be your wielders of these weapons. As I stated in our section on warriors, the ability to trigger chain attacks from a greater distance will keep you versatile and able to respond to threats with greater force than you may otherwise bring to bear. If you want to make the most of your backup units, consider packing some of these weapons. Now, what about Dancers and more backup as a result? Well, that's kind of a classic of Fire Emblem. Dancers have always allowed for some nutty things to happen, and now in Engage, they can allow for even more shenanigans. From letting you more easily get into formation for the great chain gunning, or get even more rounds of it off by allowing for bonus attacks, I highly recommend both Seedall in his Dancer class and the Byleth Emblem Ring on a separate support unit like Hortensia as part of this build. Being able to get up to 5 more chain attacks off with these two is disgusting and will likely spell the end of any boss. But we're discussing a lot of theoretical scenarios here. What about the lead up to the big boss fight or other priority targets? Well, you could still make use of backup and chain attacks to get some slick free damage, and in fact may need to finish off certain durable enemies. But what if your backup attacker is out of range? Or they needed to use a stronger melee weapon to finish off an enemy, so can't technically chain attack even though they're in range because they don't have their ranged weapon equipped. Well, this is where we can utilize what we call trade equipping. Trade equipping is another old Fire Emblem tradition, allowing you to use one unit to open the trade menu for another unit and swap the weapon they have in their first slot. This will lead to them having that weapon equipped even if it's not the last one they used. Trading is also a free action in this way, allowing you to attack after doing so. So, use your units to literally place a javelin in a backup attacker's hand before launching your attack. They'll chip in some extra damage for you as a result. There's a lot you can do with trade equipping beyond just this, and I'll probably be doing a video on it as a result, but for our purposes today, this is all you need to know. Note as well, it seems you can't use trade equipping to manipulate emblem weapons, so keep that in mind if you have one equipped, lest it throw a wrench in your plans. Of course, no discussion of backup and chain attack would be complete without touching on the tech Lucina brings to the table. Emblem Lucina is essentially just chain attack the emblem. She can teach the Dual Assist skill, which grants the wielder a 35% chance to chain attack any foe attacked in their move range, which increases to 70% with Dual Assist Plus. But keep in mind, the equipped unit does have to have the ability to chain attack in the first place, so most of the time, you will only want this on your backup attackers. Fortunately, Lucina also grants Dual Strike to the unit equipped with her ring, allowing them to chain attack like a backup unit, and her emblem attack All for One lets all allies within 2 spaces join in her attack as if they were backup units. While you really want to be using all of your emblem rings regardless, Lucina will be particularly vital here. Letting you make any unit you want into a backup unit is very strong and comes with plenty of possibilities. I personally have used Lucina with Longbow Etier for extra range and the occasional long-range dual assist snipe. My community has also highly recommended Ivy, equipped with a forged Thunder Tome like Thoron for the same reason, which sounds hilarious because as a flyer she's got huge move range. And finally, I can see a Wolf Knight such as Marin with Lucina being quite fun for free poison application all over the damn place. Experiment as you so choose, and I think you'll be happy with the results. Last thing we're going to do is look at an example of a backup chain attack on a boss. For the purposes of this example, we're looking at the battle against Micaiah during her Bond Paralogue. Not exactly the toughest boss around, but it still illustrates the point well. At the point in the footage that you're seeing, I had only knocked 1 health bar off of Micaiah and nearly cleared another. From this point forward, you can see nearly all of the damage that we deal comes from chain attacks with Goldmary, Anna, and Saphir. The first attack, launched by Linden, literally did 0 damage, but still allowed 16 from chain attacks, and then the follow-up with Citrine and her Thoron Tome did another 16 before Citrine finished the job with her own 8 damage. Note that this was an impromptu setup slapped together after Micaiah charged at me. With a more focused team setup and a boss that needs more power to bring down, you can set up something truly massive. And let me tell you, it is so satisfying to do so. But what has your guys' experience been with chain attacks? Have they been a part of your strategy as well? Or is it something you want to try out now in the near future? If you have any additions to this comp or any other comments to make about it, let us know. Also, if there are other video topics you'd like to see covered, let me know that too. Plenty more Fire Emblem Engage on the horizon, as well as more Tactics Ogre Reborn, and who even knows what else. Also, before I go, I wanted to make sure that I went ahead and thanked my supporters. I know this video is going up on a Saturday, but such it is with the schedule. So, thank you from my YouTube members to Killer Cake, Canadian Animator Guy, IR Fine, Schnorble, Angel Plushie, Star Phoenix, Tojo Jr., Federico, Brand Solar 1, Midday Moonlight, Luxor, Caffeine System, Tenchi, Matthew Berry, Retrocalypse, Vanguard Commander, Jason T131, William L, Red-Eyed Dragonfly, Wolf's Elementals, Hellsark, King Tony, Rocktopudge, John Eaton, X13, Captain Planet, Arbitrary Librarian, Danielle Bellisley, James Grieve, Avery Bailey, Christian Chapman, 451 Jim, Darth Ulfie, Jesse Humphreys, Baka Nikajaga, Nobody, Aaron Uttinger, Ari Kardik, Jeremy, Light B, and John McFadden. Guys, thank you all so much. As I always say, this would be infinitely harder to do without you. I really do count on your assistance and your generosity. Now, from Patreon, we have some fine folks to thank as well. So, Caffeine System, Killer Cake, 18C, Mike Ridings, Neo Darkness Bahamut, Shanur Islam, Kejo, Kieran Ross Day, and FV. Again, guys, I couldn't do it without you. Thank you all so much, just as much as my YouTube members and more. Thank you. All that said, this has been the Backup Breakdown. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.